we are working at Wysdom.ai, which is a company in Toronto. I'll let Leah introduce herself.
Yeah, so I was an NLP and machine learning developer like 1 month ago, and then I transited to a manager role this month. So I work with NLP stuff. So today I'll be like talking about the topic I'm talking about today is Latent Dirichlet Allocation. I think most of you heard of it already. So before I talk about the math, let's talk about why do we need LDA. So it's a probabilistic topic model. So these today we have a lot of text data. Like we have a lot of, so when you search on internet, basically what you're seeing is the text data. And then when you work with company, big corporations, they have their own KBs. That's also text. So when our clients work with us, they usually say that, hey, I have these much like KB knowledge base, and then I have the chat log. Can you actually help me identify like what's the trend today, tomorrow, whatever? So basically, we need a topic modeling algorithm to help us understand what's actually in this text corpus, and then so we know that we can take actions based on what we get. Basically, if we know which topics are similar to which documents are similar to other documents, we can actually use that for recommendation, and then we can actually see what people are really talking about. For example, in the chat logs, people may talking about like, I want to fix this problem, and then my phone is not working, my insurance, how come my insurance is so expensive, whatever. They're all topics. So essentially, the probabilistic topic model algorithm trying to do is actually trying to actually reorganize the bag of words into different topics. So as you can see from the screen, you have a bag of words. And these words I want to organize into different topics, and then I want to know in each topic which words are more important. So this is also how our brains work. When I have a bag of words, I see a bag of words, the first thing I do is actually see which one is similar to which one, and I will categorize it into different topics. And essentially that's, I think topic modeling is trying to mimic how human brains is working in a statistical way.
Yeah, just a quick clarification comment. So what you were showing, they're usually referred to as word clouds, right?
Yeah.
So you can see what words are more significant than others.
Yes.
Bag of words are usually the vector representation of some document.
Yeah. So this is just a a graph to actually a picture to help us help people understand like how what probabilistic model is trying to do. So when we have a document like this one, basically it's saying this is related to it's saying that how many genes does an organism need to actually need to survive in a revolution sense, right? So when I'm as a human, I read at this document, I don't know much about this topic. What I would do is basically go through the documents and then try to highlight some keywords. So the keywords, I will have some I will highlight genes, genomes, and then what is that? Sequence, and then you will mark it as one topic. And then if I look at organism life, and then I may say that, okay, survive, this may be related to revolution. And then if I see computer analysis data, I will probably say, okay, this is something related to computer related topic. So my brain actually works in the way I will try to see which word belongs to what topic. And then I will also categorize it that this one document may have multiple topics. How many probability of the topic one topic has? And then so for these documents, I may say that, okay, I have 20% is related to genes, and then 30% is related to 20% related to evolution, and 30% related to gene, and then 40% related to computer. And then my brain will say that, okay, there's some transitions between the topics across this document. So our goal, like the probabilistic topic modeling's goal, is to be able to infer and estimate some hidden variable. Because my goal is to be able to construct what I just showed you. Like I want to know in each topic what's the word probabilistic distribution. I also want to know in each of my topic what's the topic distribution. And then so this is what I want eventually. What the model is trying to construct is actually a posterior probability of my topic word distribution and the posterior of my document topic distribution. So just remember that beta here means the topic word distribution, and the theta means that it's like a document topic distribution. And later we will actually talk about, use this symbol a lot in the presentation.
So when we use this technique, can we understand what the key topics are across all documents? Or is it specific to one document, it'll tell you the breakdown of topics within there?
Your question is that, are we able to know like which topic is more important than the other?
Across all documents.
Across all documents, it will only tells you like how many, it will assign a topic number, and then you will just find the words that is more meaningful in this topic for you, but it doesn't really tell you which one is more important.
Right, but if I had like 100 documents, could I look at my topics and then say something about all 100 collectively?
Depending on how,
So
like,
so if you do that, then you'll be getting the topic of your 100 documents.
Yes.
Usually what happens is that for each document you get the topics.
Okay. But can I do it that way as well? Like look at the 100?
You can, then you have only one document.
Okay. So
It contains those 100 documents.
good.
What's the theta here? So Z is frequency of those words?
no, Z is actually the topic that the word is assigned to. So I believe that this word actually belongs to this topic. This is it's actually a latent variable. You don't see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So theta is the real frequency distribution.
Yeah, the posterior, yes. If the posterior is actually the distribution, I believe a document, the topic distribution per document.
And topic would be like the yellow is one topic.
Yes.
So
yeah.
so I will sum over all, and the frequency will be not for gene, DNA, genetics separately, but for all of them.
So basically for each topic, the vocabulary size is the same, and then the probability inside each topic is summed up to 1.
Okay.
I think that was just going to say, I think that's a good question. She'll show later on. It's very important to know what those variables are. They're latent, but they have significance.
So as I mentioned earlier, like knowing the posterior probability is important because it actually helps us to actually do some information retrieval, document similarity, and then the next graph will tell you how. So basically, this is the end product. For the theta, for each document, you will get a probability for each topic assigned for the document. And then for the beta, it's basically a matrix. So it tells you in each topic, what's the word probability. So if I use this, if I look at the graph here, so you can see that. So based on what it tells me, I know that for this particular document, it has a very outstanding topic. And then like the second one is actually less important than the first one. And then the beta actually tells you, it gives you a way to kind of visualize what you have in the topic. And it helps us human to understand, because human, when we look at probability, doesn't make a lot of sense to us. But when we look at the actual words, we can understand what this is all about. For example, the first topic is related to genetic, and then the most significant word is human, genome, and then DNA, which makes sense. And the second topic is revolution. So you see the most significant word is evolution and species, disease, and then so on, computers.
Clarification. So when you mention beta is actually a vector of probabilities, the word in that topic. So does that mean for each word in the topic, there's one component in that beta vector?
Your question is that for what word? does each word has a component in beta?
So, each word is actually a component of the beta vector for that topic.
So beta is a matrix.
Yeah.
So it's like you have
Vector or matrix?
it's a matrix. So it's like you have beta ij. So where I would represent the words,
Yeah.
and you will have k different topics. So j represents the topics. So it's a V cross, k matrix, if you can imagine that.
So every
it's
row
like-
is a topic, right?
every row is a
Every row is a
And then the length of every row is given by how many?
the vocab.
that the vocabulary.
So, which brings two questions. One, how do we ensure that that every topic is equal length? I mean, for example, if there is a topic, let's say animal, there are much more animals which can be there in the animal topic. But if there is, I mean, I'm just curious. Like that's one question, and then the other one which I am a little bit concerned about is who makes these lists up? So given a document, do you create the topic list? Is it or
You assign the topic
assign
number,
topic number.
You
and then
assign-
the model will actually figure out like what's the most significant
so
word for
you
each topic.
assign the topic number,
Yes.
and then so there is T1, T2, T3, and between each T1, T2, T3, what will be the words that also gets automatically assigned. Everything is based on that document. So we are
Corpus,
not,
basically, the vocabulary
Yeah,
actually
corpus.
covers the whole corpus.
yes.
So the length will be the same.
So we are
Yeah.
not using some predefined topic list.
No.
Right? No. The topics are
Learned
Latent.
from the document.
I think I think that precursor to that question is are actually in your matrix. Are the words your components or not? Because in some methods they are. In LD, I think are they or not? I just don't know.
Your
So
question
the
is-
words in your matrix.
Yeah.
Are the words the components of the? So each row has a few fields, columns.
Yes.
Each column represents a word or each
Yeah.
It does.
Yes, yes. So you have
Yeah.
words,
That answers.
you have topics, and you have words.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
beta basically represents the probability associated with the word with respect to, conditioned on the topic.
So therefore the length is constant because the number of columns, our vocabulary is constant.
Yeah.
They may or may not happen
Oh.
in the
So
topic.
the corpus.
I see.
Yeah.
So basically, it's just that the top 10 will be important. I mean, the probabilities of the important ones
Yes.
will be important,
Yes.
others
Yeah.
will be zero.
Yes, but I think you have a lot to show later
Yeah,
on
yes,
how it works.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I'll explain the map later. Now just like the intuition, because without this intuition, I think you will get lost.
So then the omega, sorry, so omega is what is the prior?
The omega,
Yeah, the omega in the conditional probability.
that's W actually.
That's a word.
That's word.
Actually, W represents document.
Document. Sorry, document. It's
So
document.
then-
So back to here is actually also document.
So given your document,
Yeah.
what is your theta?
Then
What are your
you need
topics?
that beta as to be a matrix anymore because you're fixed on the document. right?
Maybe let me
Yeah, let's
explain,
go on.
and then you will actually. So this is just give you some intuition. What's the end product, and why would that help us? And to
That's a very
understand.
good question for the second part.
Yeah. So I want to start with the basic model because it helps you finally actually understand what LDA is like. How is it where is it coming from? So Unigram model. This is actually the graphical model. N is the number of the documents, and then N is the number of words in the document. So what Unigram model is saying that across the corpus I have, and I believe my word is drawn from one distribution, and that distribution is shared. So at this point, it does not have the concept of topic yet. I'm just saying that I have so many words. The words that I pick is based on the distribution that I see in this corpus. So mixture of Unigram. So Unigram model it's kind of like it explains something. Okay, so here is the important part. So it's actually drawn from a single multinomial distribution, meaning that all the distributions sum up to 1. And we have to remember it because we will come back to this later. So mixture of Unigram is saying that, okay, that model doesn't look realistic in the real case, because in real world, I may have multiple topics. Each topics will have different words distribution. For example, if I'm talking about Taiwan, my hometown, I will have very significant words for like a street, food, right? And then if I talk about like Canada, maybe goose, I don't know, but Taiwan does not have goose. So like moose, okay, we don't have moose, and then any kinds of big animals, we don't have it. So the word distributions are very different across different topics. So it's saying that, okay, I argument the Unigram model then to actually have multiple topics, which is the Z. And then each Z will have different distribution over the word. So if I were to find the probability, joint probability of all words in the document, which I want to maximize later on, I will do this map, which is just saying that I have this much probability for topic Z, and then I multiply the chance that my word is actually dropped from this topic. And then this graph actually gives you some intuition. So for mixture of Unigram, I will always have a space for topic selection. And then I will select my topic based on the probability. And then based on that probability, my words probability is different, right? And I will draw my words based on that probability. And then so all my joint probability is just the product of all the possible probability. So this is what the mixture Unigram is about. And then if I were to maximize the equation, so what this model is trying to do is I have multiple mixture of Unigram. They will try to collaborate with each other. So the topic the words that I assign to the topic make sense and will maximize. So basically, back to my example, Taiwan will have very high probability for street and food, and then like Canada will have a very high probability for moose and cold. But then like so Taiwan will not get a high probability for cold because they kind of collaborate with each other. So I can maximize my probability.
So can you just go over P, W, and Z is from different documents. So W, N will be different documents?
Just think about this is actually one document. Okay. So one document, think about myself as a document. I will actually first pick the topic person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just not able to wrap my head around like, so what is the multinomial distribution?
The multinomial distribution for okay.
I think the question is like the WN on the top, is that still a document or is that a word now?
WN?
Yeah.
It's a word. It's a word.
Oh, it's a word. A number of word.
Previously you had W as a document, so I think that's.
Oh yes, yeah.
So sometimes you see the W as bold.
Yeah, W that you.
Oh my bad. Sorry. Actually, throughout this whole presentation, the W should be bold, which is the document. Sorry, my bad.
Okay, so that explains a lot. So now, what we are trying to do is we know that the same word can exist in different topics, right?
Yes.
So we are trying to kind of average that using those pi distribution. So we calculate the probability of that word based.
That's an expectation. We're not like averaging.
Yeah.
It's just an expectation.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then what would be PZ?
The probability of topic.
Of the topic.
Yeah. So I'll have like, for example, in my case, I have 4 topics, and then for each topic, I will have a probability.
Yes.
Like what I showed earlier, like here. Here.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. You will have the probability for a topic.
And then P of W bold. So if we go back, P of W bold is just the probability of that word in that document. That's what you.
W P of
Of a given word distribution.
Yes.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. Because different topic will have very different word distribution, and
Yes.
I just draw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sorry, so PW is a marginal over all the.
PW is a joint probability.
Joint?
Yeah. So PLSI now is actually an extension of mixture of Unigram. So essentially it's saying that, back to this, forgot one very important point. So mixture of Unigram assume one document only has one topic. And that's why it has this selection phase and said that, okay, I have to select this topic first. But it's not realistic because most of the time, one document has multiple topics, and then if we were to use this one to model the real world scenario, the result won't be good because you kind of force the model to say that, okay, even though they're not close, I still need to give them similar, like high probability, which doesn't make any sense. So PLSI is saying that, okay, I know this is a problem. Why don't I relax the topic distribution a little bit? I let each document to have the ability to assign its own probability. It's not shared anymore. So I will have a set of like topic distribution, which is also a multinomial distribution, 4 per document. So in that sense, I will have like this will be the math formula. It's exactly the same as mixture unigram, except every z is conditional on d this time. And I will have like, so this is the same math. And then that makes sense so far, right?
So D here is the document.
D is document.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind restating quickly the problem that you faced at the previous slide?
The previous problem is that it assumes like one document only has one topic. Yeah, and then in most of the real world application, this is not the case. So PLSI suggests that I relax this topic distribution a little bit. I let each document to have its own distribution, and then I draw the word based on the distribution. And my end goal is actually to find the proper like probability for the word. So that makes sense for the whole environment.
Sorry, you mean in the previous slide, you mean each document has the same topic distribution, not
Yes.
a single topic, right?
Yeah,
How
like
same
all the documents has the same distribution.
Okay.
Yeah. So PLSI has this assumption, so I think the math actually makes sense to you guys. It's just conditioned on D. The rest of them are the same, but it actually, so this is actually a diagram to show you what does that looks like. Now you see, you kind of get the taste that Z is actually conditioned on D. So if this one is only for one, the diagram is for one document, you will have 4 variables per document. Whereas before, this one is actually shared. So it's actually, every corpus only has 4 variable.
What does it, so if I have 3 topics in a document, and there can be a distribution of that 3 topics, so one of the topics comes more often and the other 2 less and less. Now, you say that PLSI, there is a different topic list. What does that mean?
It means that for each document, I will have my own distribution. So it's saying that, okay, so you and I have the same sets of like collections, but I have different amount. So for example, you have 2 fancy cars, and I don't have a fancy car. I only have 1 car, and then I have a lot of clothes, but you don't.
I see.
Yeah.
But these are 2 people, right? So these are 2 documents.
Yes, 2 documents. Then you will have a lot of this kind of variable.
Okay.
So the deficiency of PLSI, if you found it, that's good. If you don't, I'm gonna explain to you. So you can see that for each document, I will have K variables to model because they are tailored for this particular document. So if I have M document, for example, if I have like 10,000 documents, and then I have 100 topic, which makes sense, or 200 topics. And if you are technical savvy, you can think about how many parameters your computer has to remember, right? It's actually a very big matrix. And then, so this one is you will also have the topic word distribution. So you can think about these 2 giant matrices will eat a lot of your memory, and then it will take super long. So in real world application, it works, but it's just like computational, very expensive. And then another problem of this one is you can actually only model what you've seen because the variable is actually designed for your document. So if you have a document that you've never seen before, then you have no way to model it. Does that make sense? Okay. So another caveat of this model is that because it actually, think about that, it has so many parameters, right? And when you try to maximize the likelihood, it tends to overfit. Yeah.
But how come? Because isn't the model based on words? You haven't seen the document, yes, but you've seen the words. You can get the document probabilities from the words.
Yes.
And the topics from the document. So how is it that that you would run into the problem that the unseen document would stop you from modeling it?
Because this topic topic distribution is actually this variable, and then you only assign to this document.
It's new for each document, but you haven't seen
yes.
it. You don't know.
Yeah. So and then it overfits the document, because think about like if you just look at math, like it's maximum likelihood, right? So it does not have prior and posterior to balance it. It will just like overfit whatever I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
So to continue to the LDA, one important concept we need to know is the exchangeability. And then I had a big discussion with Alex, and then it's actually very, very deep, like math. So what I'm gonna do is make it very simple. So essentially, like it suggests that if I have a fixed number of the topic or words, and I believe they're exchangeable, I can actually model them using another mixture distribution. So this is what LDA is coming from. So if you look at the PLSI, it's actually, the graphical model is inference Z and inference word. But then if you look at LDA, it actually have alpha, theta, and beta now. Alpha and beta is Dirichlet distribution. So LDA is actually improving PLSI to be a generative model by imposing the Dirichlet prior on the model parameter. So what does it trying to do is that earlier for PLSI, it has the fixed variable for each topic. So I won't be able to model the unseen data. So if I want to model my unseen data, I want to make it a distribution instead of a fixed variable. It's still a distribution. It's actually like a probability distribution instead of a fixed variable. Yeah, so that's what it's trying to do. And the math is essentially the same. You will see that it's actually over and over again, like the same structure, which is mixed unigram. And then I actually have the joint product, and then I want to find the final joint probability for my document. So this is actually so let's talk about like Dirichlet distribution. So Dirichlet distribution has like some characters, sorry. And then like the topic, so basically we use Dirichlet because we want to replace the k multiplied by n variable with a distribution. And then the character of Dirichlet distribution is that it actually is very similar to multinomial distribution. The geometric interpretation is that you will be able to, in the subspace, you will be able to find a vector that always sum up to 1. So that is very important because when we come back to a graph later that I show you the geometric like interpretation, you need to have that idea that all the probabilities sum up to 1. So just remember it for now. And then Dirichlet distribution is good to explain probability distribution of a probability distribution. So come back to this. So I said that earlier, like my topic, so if I go back to this. So my topic distribution is a distribution, right? So now I want to model this distribution. So it's actually modeling a distribution using a distribution. So that's what Dirichlet can be used for. So this is Dirichlet distribution, and then I'm not gonna explain the math. I'm just gonna tell you like what does that mean when with the variable alpha. Alpha is different. So if you have a very small alpha, it's very concave. So it basically tells you that the prior is telling the model that I believe my document will have a few very outstanding topics. And if I keep growing my alpha to very big, it's just telling the system that, okay, I think my top document is a mixture of everything. So the same for the word, because we have actually inference from alpha and beta. So it's the same idea, just saying that, okay, how do I think this, how do I think the model should be like? Is it very discrete or very like uniform? So this is the...
Why do we need Dirichlet for this? Why couldn't we do just multi-Gaussians?
So, like if so this is what we both were discussing. So Dirichlet is used like especially when it comes to Bayesian inference and all. You know, to be very frank, Dirichlet like distributions are used to explain probability distribution. So even Leah asked me like why Dirichlet. So it's like it's a probability distribution of probability distribution, by which we mean that the multinomial distribution that is associated with the topic, that itself is being you're creating a probabilistic model for that using Dirichlet. So that's why we use Dirichlet. Like Dirichlet is used, you'll be surprised that Dirichlet is used to explain the multinomial distributions. Like for example, and I'll be very brief. So when you have companies that look at the multinomial distribution of user ratings and all, so they use Dirichlet. So in the same way, David Bly and Andrew, if you look at their videos, they said that the best way of modeling a multinomial distribution would be to use this Dirichlet. That's why they came up with Dirichlet.
That's argument I can buy.
To add to that, it's like Gaussians are not limited. Like Dirichlet is basically a doubly stochastic distribution. So in a certain sense, that doesn't really mean much. But what it does mean is that you are getting a distribution over a set of numbers that are in the interval 0 and 1, inclusive of both ends, and sum up to 1.
I see.
Yeah.
Gaussians go from minus
To
infinity
model
to
the
plus
simplexes,
infinity.
he's right.
Yeah.
So to model the simplexes, you need to have Dirichlet distribution.
I see.
But if you're modeling real numbers, then you go for Gaussians.
I see. That's true.
If I want to be a horrible, terrible person and also a devil advocate, I would say you can always draw probabilities from Gaussian distributions for others. But I think you're very convincing, and I like that point. Never heard of that.
You can truncate Gaussians, but that would be kind of iffy. Like
In physics, we often use Dirac delta functions.
Guys, can we leave
which
it?
are
That's why I said I'm a horrible person. Please.
Okay, so this is actually a diagram. So essentially, this is the same. So that's why I have all the the explanation from Unigram to all the way to LDA. So you see the whole Unigram part is the same, except that now you have prior at both sides. So you have prior. So it actually the LDA is a Bayesian form of the PLSI. So this is just because the paper actually talk about continuous mixture of Gaussian. So I was very confused about what that term is coming from. So that's why I draw this for you guys. So hopefully it makes sense. Because now our theta is actually a distribution. It's not a fixed value parameter anymore. So you have to integral to get the final joint probability. And then that's why it's called continuous mixture of Unigram. And then the marginal likelihood for the probability across the document is the same form. That's how we got these two equations. And I think it may be, when you just look through the document, the paper, it may be very confusing for you if you don't understand the whole history. Yeah, but essentially it's coming from the same form. So, okay, back to our goal is to estimate the hidden variables and then to derive our beta and theta, and there will be a latent parameters that tells me how much I believe this word belongs to this topic. So that's why I talk about that at the very beginning, because it actually tells it's kind of now you understand why we all need all that, right? Because now we have the posterior probability, and then this is my final product, and for sure I want to be able to maximize it to get something meaningful. But this is a very different topic, so I will just talk about very high level concept of it, and then I'm not gonna go into very deep on this topic. I think it belongs to a different talk already. So the problem of this this LDA model is that it's nice, and then it has a lot of integral. So it has a problem because it's integral. It's actually intractable when you're calculating all the possibilities. So if you want to estimate using EM model, you kind of have to find out the possibility first, and then you can estimate, but there's no way we can do so. So variational inference is saying that, okay, so forget about trying to figure out all the scenarios. I will use another distribution to approximate my posterior distribution. So that's why we have these two graph in the paper, the right-hand side is the simplified version. It said that, okay, I will assume my theta and z, which that I want to model is actually independent. They're not dependent, so the problem is actually less complicated. And then the left-hand side is the actual posterior probability I want to model. Variational inference is just saying that, okay, I will have a very simple version, and then I try to approximate the actual posterior probability. And then the graph at the bottom right is actually what describe what it's like. The blue contour is the actual posterior probability, and then the red one is the simplified version. So variational inference is good in the sense that it actually converges quickly, but I won't go to the detail. Just that's why people use variational inference. Because you may have a question, if it's not accurate already, why do I use that? Because it converges quickly. But then the math is actually very complicated because you have to talk about like elbow and then all that model, find the Q function, and which is actually a different world already. So this is the variational inference. I'll stop here. If you have any interest, there are so many videos I can send to you. You can understand it. So back to the geometric interpretation, I talk about that we have to remember the important concept is that all the probability actually sum up to 1. So think about everything now. It's a subspace. My outer triangle is actually the worst subspace. So for this case, I have 3 words. And then I'm gonna describe what these model fit into this graph. So topic must be a subspace of words, the word space, because you cannot have topic that outside whatever you've never seen before. So it must be a subspace. And then in this case, we have 3 topics. So in the Unigram model, every document is actually only come from one distribution. So in this simplex, it's just a dot. Across all documents, it's just a dot. Does that make sense? Because all probabilities sum up to 1. So it's a dot. Then for mixture of Unigram model, because each document will only have 1 topic. So it's actually at the corner of the topic simplex. And then for the PLSI, because every document has a set of topic distribution, and that distribution will sum up to 1, which will occupy the dot in this subspace. So if I have n documents, I will have n dots in this geometric representation. So that it doesn't model the unseen data, because if it did not sit on that dot, you don't know the distribution. Then for LDA is actually a distribution, so it's actually a contour. It models everything. So if you have unseen data, you will still have a distribution. You will still find a dot in this subspace.
One clarification question. So the bigger simplex is the word simplex, and then you have 3 words?
3 words.
And why did you say, because it's continuous space, then for unseen documents you would still have topics?
Yeah, you will still have a distribution for the topics, because it's now a distribution. It's not a variable. So in the space, it's not a dot anymore. It's actually a distribution. So you can find, if you have a new unseen data, you will find the distribution may be different, but you can always find a space for it.
And what do the contours represent inside again?
The contour is actually the topic distribution. Yeah.
So in a certain sense, just to make it clear, like the contours are kind of like I don't know, Photoshop and other painting tools where you have like tools that snap to certain grids. They're like you kind of impose that regularity. So your topics could be arbitrary x's over there. There's a force kind of almost enforcing them, or like just pulling them towards one of those kind of continuous like lines in a certain sense. So snaps to those grids, to those lines.
And closer to the center, further away from the center doesn't really mean anything.
No, it does mean something.
So like mean something?
It's like that. Yeah. So that's about that. That's why we use Dirichlet distributions. So when you look at the center center the mean. So if you add up all the alphas, you get the mean. So that is the center, that's the mean of your topic distributions. And then, you know, the alpha, like she was talking about, you know, the magnitude of the alpha, that actually describes the variability.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And the smaller the alpha, higher is the variability. So actually when you talk about the distribution, when she starts talking about the distribution, it's just that it has a lot of meaning. So the center point actually means the mean distribution of the, you know, the points, and, you know, the alpha, the magnitude of that explains, you know, how distributed your topics are or your documents are.
So if there's low alpha.
Can you go back to, I think you showed a diagram, 3 simplex.
3 simplex.
Or is it before or after?
Oh, the Dirichlet.
Yeah, this one. So that corresponds to different alphas.
Yeah.
So with low alpha, you would have sort of discrete topics. So the dots would scatter around the corners?
Yeah. So it basically what they do is that, you know, this, you're exactly right. So the topic actually is represented by the corners. And the center is the mean distribution. And all the documents lie in between. And as your alpha decreases, your variability increases. So that's why mostly you set your alpha, you know, if your topics are, you know, your documents are, you know, they are described by those topics, like the documents, all the documents are tightly composed. There's less high variability. You'd find something very similar to Gaussian kind of distribution, like that. And then when it's like, it becomes more and more concave when you set your alpha very low, very low.
Beautiful. Just one last clarification question. So, if you go
Which
back
slide?
to
Okay.
the one that you were.
Oh, this one.
Yeah. So those dots are actually on your distribution,
Yes,
right? On
yes.
your contours.
Yes, exactly.
And the distribution was inferred previously with your variational inference.
Oh,
Yes,
it's for
yeah,
PLSI.
So that's the way to approximate your, you know, your priors.
Your posterity.
Yeah, so I think that's it. And then these are the results. And of course, every paper will have beautiful results. So that's the result. It's basically just showing that, okay, I have a very good result. I'm able to categorize documents into different topics, and then the topic words are meaningful. Yeah.
So the quoted words at the top, they are manually assigned, right?
No, this is you're manually assigned, because for the LDA you will get the topic top words, but then you kind of interpret that into a topic. Yeah.
So every bunch of words are a topic. Is that?
Yeah. So this is just saying that LDA is better than the other model. Like low perplexity means that it's actually clustered better. So it's just a result that they want to show everyone that LDA is much better. And then in this paper presentation, I did not talk about like smoothing, because I think that's another very different topic, so I will not talk about it. And then this is another demonstration for how good is the LDA model. So basically, it's just mostly comparing actually LDA and the PLSI. So that's it.